have with us a group of civic leaders who want to share with you their thoughts about the challenges and opportunities that Greater Indianapolis community faces in a changing world. We've asked Nikki Maurer, chairman of the Indianapolis Business Journal, to lead the discussion. And joining him is Sherry Seiwert, president of the Indianapolis Downtown Inc. We're very happy to have her here. George Miller, president of Martin University, and Sam Odle, newly elected member of the Indianapolis Public School Board, and former executive vice president and chief operating officer of IU Health. Please join me in welcoming all of them to the stage. And get those questions ready.
Morning, everybody. Well, we got some extraordinary people here today, and I want you to learn a little bit about them, a little bit more than we just heard. And we don't have a lot of time, so we'll talk to each one separately, and then we'll try to together tackle a couple of problems. How's that sound? So, George, you're a Hoosier, and most of us don't know that because you're new to the university, and this is new leaders today, but you have been around Indiana from the very beginning. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was born here before my mother moved the family to New York, where I grew up.
And so you have a perspective of being born here and then coming back. When you researched this job that you just took at Martin University, you did some research about Indianapolis, I'm sure, before you decided to move back. What are your observations?
The city has changed quite a bit. I think the last time I was in Indianapolis for any length of time, I was about maybe 5, 6 years old. And needless to say, the city has changed quite a bit for the better. I mean, it was an easy sell. My wife had been here several times, and she was excited about coming to Indianapolis.
And you've been here now a few months. Any surprises?
Yes, about 9 months. I'm surprised that Indianapolis has a metropolitan feel to it in terms of what is offered, but the people tend to react more like small town folks, which is very pleasant.
Great. Well, now, Sherry, you got a brand new job too.
I do.
But you're a little bit different because you lived in Indianapolis pretty much your entire career.
My entire life.
And you've served us, this community, for more than 20 years.
That's correct. I've been engaged in community redevelopment and the development of affordable housing for my entire career. So this is a little bit of a departure as the president of Indianapolis Downtown Inc., but I think that it certainly brings a lot of my experience and skill set and puts it together.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful opportunity and a great plus for us. But in that 20 years, you've had an opportunity to form some opinions. Tell me what are your concerns about Indy and maybe where you see Indianapolis Downtown Inc. in the next decade?
I think that Indianapolis, our downtown right now is wonderful. I think that it reflects, the community's image and pride and our level of investment, all of which are very important for business retention and growth. But as we're going forward, I think that we need to be mindful of revenues right now. In Center Township, we have a large percentage of properties that don't pay taxes, and so going forward, I think that we really need to be mindful of what we're investing in, and so I think having a plan and a vision for Indianapolis and downtown is critical right now.
You mean we don't have a vision until you got here?
I think that there are a lot of different institutions have different visions, but I don't
Okay.
think we have a collective city
Okay,
vision
yes.
established right now.
All right. And Sam, a completely different perspective altogether, because you've worn hats of a different color, we might say. You've been in the health field, healthcare field for a long time, and now an abrupt change, or maybe you don't perceive it that way, but I see an abrupt change to education. So first, tell me a little bit about healthcare and where you see that going. That could take us all day, but so just give me a minute or two, and then what the heck are you doing on the school board?
Well, I think from a healthcare perspective, I think we're really fortunate to have really great healthcare institutions here. I think the quality of medicine that is practiced in Indiana is very good. I think that the downside of it is we don't have everybody insured. And I think if we really want to have a healthy population, we've got to figure out a way to give everybody an insurance card as quickly as possible. Education, it's really related. I think, you have to, have a good education, and you have to have good health care if you're going to have a good quality of life. After retiring, I guess I've been involved in public education as a volunteer, but after retiring and looking at the situation with the Indianapolis public school system, which I'm a product of, I really felt it was an opportunity now for me to sort of get in the boat and not criticize it from the outside, but get in and try to see if I can help with the other 6 school board members develop an Indianapolis public school system that really is first class and fits with a city of the quality of Indianapolis.
Well, we look forward to your doing that too, and I know you've been awarded great accolades for your work in healthcare. We expect the same from the school board.
Do our best.
And we know now a little bit about each one of you. Why don't we together see if we can tackle something here? Why don't we talk about how do we position Indy for its role as a global community in the next decade? Who wants to start with that?
Well, I'm going to say that we really need to take transit seriously and really, as a community, get behind that issue, because I think for Indianapolis to remain competitive and be a world-class city, we need a better transit system. And that not just light rail that a lot of folks talk about, but a rapid bus transit system that connects north, south, east, west, and folks to jobs and folks to downtown.
All right. Well, that's a good idea. George, you're one of those guys that when people say, well, I'm not a rocket scientist, but you are a rocket scientist. So, I mean, with your background in chemistry and astrophysics, tell us, use some of that brilliance and tell us where you think we ought to be going in the next 10 years.
I agree with the transportation, but if you look at parts of the country that's really transformed themselves, a good example would be Research Triangle in North Carolina or Silicon Valley. You have to have a very good educational system across the board, from pre-K all the way through university, because no company in this competitive will locate where you do not have a diverse, educated workforce. And so along with transportation, you can have all the infrastructure, but if your educational system is not supported, no company will want to locate. So we have to look at education from pre-K3, affordable child care with options all the way through from Research University, Liberal Arts University, across the board.
But you're in a position to make a difference, at least on the higher education side.
That's what we plan on doing.
So you're going to maybe have some influence with Sam, hopefully.
We've already had a few brief conversations when he was out on the campaign.
Okay. Yeah, I think I ran into you at a fundraiser for Sam.
Yes.
Well, let's see what he has to say on this issue.
Well, I agree with both of those are things that we need to do. But kind of extending a little bit further, I think what we have to do is really develop ourselves as an innovation center and make sure that they see Indianapolis and Central Indiana as a place that is constantly innovating and improving the quality of life. And I think one of the things that we have to do to create that kind of an atmosphere is really think of ourselves as a community of abundance. I think when we think of ourselves as a community of scarcity, that there's not enough around, it really stifles innovation. So I think we ought to think of ourselves as a community with abundance and that we're constantly innovating to solve problems and lift everybody up.
Well, that's great. If it's a community that's welcoming, then what do you think about some of the initiatives in the legislature over the last few years about teaching creationism in science class? You're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, well, obviously, I don't think that we really should teach things that are not fact-based, that are not based in science and overall knowledge. I respect everybody's right to have their own religious beliefs, but I don't think we ought to teach things in school that aren't fact-based.
Tell me a bit, going back to the welcoming community, which I think is something that's a theme, overriding theme here. What about this marriage rights amendment, not according homosexual liaisons with the rights of ordinary people in love? Is that too tough an issue to tackle?
Live and let live. I think there are far more pressing issues facing our community than the really care about what people's personal choices are. I think there's other things that are more serious issues that we need to tackle.
I agree with Dr. Miller on that. I hope that our new governor and the legislature don't get drug off into trying to legislate social issues. I think that it will make us an unwelcoming community, and I think it'll be really hard for companies like Roche and Lilly and others that recruit on an international basis to really be able to recruit the kind of talent that we need if we really want to be an innovation center. So I hope we stay away from those.
So if we want to be the kind of city that we're talking about in the next decade, we've got to be a city that welcomes everybody.
That's right.
All right. Hotline here from Stage. Is that right? Sam, a question for you. How does IU help hire for diversity and why?
Well, we have always had a commitment to diversity. One is we take care of a very diverse population of patients. And so it's really important for us to have a workforce that reflects the population that we want to take care of. The communication, the respect for different cultures, all those things come into play when you're trying to take care of people at a very vulnerable time in their life. And so if they see people that are like them and that represent them, they're more apt to share information. The more information we have about the patient, the better we can take care of them. So a diverse workforce is really important. And basically, I mean, to honor that commitment, we build diversity and hiring into our executive incentive programs and into our employee incentive programs so that it really is a factor in determining how much you're going to be paid. So if you meet those diversity goals, so I think it shows that we're really committed to it.
Can I ask a question, Sam?
Yes, please.
I want to understand kind of how you hope to impact the public school system in your new role.
Well, I think again, it's a board of 7, so I have to work with the other board members and the leadership of the school district. But some of the ideas I think that we have in common is to get preschool for all 4 and 5-year-olds. We really need to get kids started in their education. On a policy level, we hope to, I think, influence the state legislature to really change the law so that kids do have to start the school sooner rather than right now in Indiana, you can wait until you're 7 years old to go to school, and that's just really too late to get kids started. So we hope to influence that. I think on the other end, we really want to stem the dropout rate. We can identify those kids that are at risk for dropout. It's the ones that have a GPA of 1 or less. And we've got to get those kids and really case manage them, help them get into the workforce, into some other creative activity that keeps them connected to school, but helps them get a better start in life. So I think we want to do those two things. And then working in the middle to develop more autonomy at the school level so that teachers and principals can be more creative around designing the educational experience that those kids need in their schools. As you saw in the demographics, the two-parent household where mom has all the free time to help tutor the kids and help with homework, and dad goes out and works, that doesn't exist anymore. Many of our parents who are in the IPS, work 2 or 3 jobs, to try to make ends meet. So having them participate at the same level maybe our parents did is just not a reality. But we have to still figure out a way to educate those kids, regardless of their life situation.
I've got another question, and we're on the deadline. It's a shame. You guys are so bright and so interesting that I wish we had at least another hour. But we've got time for 1 or 2 more inquiries. I'm not going to have time. Okay. Those of you who have questions that we cannot answer because of the time, please submit those questions anyway, and we'll figure out a way to get back to you with some answers. So one of our last issues here, Sherry, what specific types of projects does Indianapolis Downtown Inc. participate in? Or maybe let me try to add something to that question. What new projects do you have in mind? I know you're new to the job, but how are you going to shake things up?
Well, let me answer the first one. So Indianapolis Downtown Inc., our core business is clean, safe beautification. So, I think we have a very vibrant downtown. We help do the flower plantings. You won't see pest birds downtown, pigeons and the like, because we help to mitigate that. So we take care of a lot of the issues, safety. A lot of times we will pay for additional bike patrol from the police department. But going forward, and right now we manage Georgia Street. I don't know how many folks have actually been to Georgia Street, but we do hope to have a lot more events going on in 2013 there. We would also like to really look at events beyond just Georgia Street. So the canal, I think the canal is a beautiful asset for downtown. Right now it's a 3-mile linear park, but I think that we could be doing a lot more on the event side. The canal, Monument Circle. Right now the city is selecting a design team for the redevelopment. When I say monument, it's not, nothing's going to change. But when you look at the bricks around, and how it's laid out, a new $40 million project will be looked at probably in the next 3 years. There's several other projects that we'll be participating in along with the city. So,
great.
I'm trying to be really concise.
This will be my last question, unfortunately, but it's one we can all kind of pitch in. And it's I'm prompted by a question here that I'm going to kind of rephrase just a little bit. But it has to do with extracurricular activities. So we're talking about, in each of your capacities, what can you create to enhance our quality of life here in Indianapolis? So in the schools, after-school activities. I mean, school shouldn't just be a classroom where you go and then go home. What can we do for after-school activities? And at the college level, what can we do for community activities? And of course, you've mentioned some ideas, Sherry, as well. So in each of your capacities, what do you have in mind to create a better Indianapolis or a richer?
Plays, music, and there's some other things that we would like to have in that Sherman Avenue corridor, which will enhance the community, working very closely with the Martin M. Wright CDC to look at the old quality of life that's happening there in that area.
I know Sam's got 4 years of eligibility in football, so Sam, what do you have to add to that?
Well, I want to continue to advocate for quality health care for everyone. I mean, that's still a passion of mine, and I think that we have to continue to figure out how to do that in the state of Indiana and in Indianapolis. But then, obviously, a lot of focus on education. I think that we have to be concerned about the children that are in IPS, but I think we have to be concerned about all those families as well. And I think we're going to have to create a more creative school system than what we've had in the past. I think we're going to have to partner with all of the other educational institutions, whether it be charter schools, private schools, Catholic schools, We have to figure out how to use all those resources to impact the quality of
Well, let me pin you down a little bit more. I mean, you've got empty classrooms all evening long. You've got summer empty schools. You've got a whole community out there that could benefit from creative situations in the public school properties. Do something here. What do you got in mind? I mean, we want you, as a school system, to enhance our lives, not only our children's, but all the community.
Yeah, I think inviting, having, there's schools are doing it now to a small degree, but having, parent nights where the whole family comes to school, whether they're enrolled in that school or not. There's a meal, there's educational, fun activities to really create this school as more of a community center.
Sherry, you can, let's give that's a great reason to applaud, because that's thinking outside the box. So, Sherry, tie it all up for us. What can we do to make this city something special in the next decade?
I mentioned kind of having a vision for Indianapolis, and in 2013, in February, ourselves, the city, and others will be launching that process. And so, and it will really center around 5 constructs of, livability, a vibrant economy, public realm, transportation. Sorry, there's one more. Okay, and there will be a way for folks to participate as well. If they can't join the committees, we'll have a mechanism where they can participate. We're hoping to create the plan and the vision for going forward. So I think that would be a good way for folks to participate.
Thank you very much. We've got to recognize that a couple of search committees did a lot of hard work and came up with 2 brilliant leaders for our community, to both of you who've been chosen to serve our community. Congratulations to those search committees. Couldn't have chosen better people. And welcome to Indianapolis. And George, welcome back to Indiana. Thank you. And for you, Sam, it looks like another great career in the making. You certainly distinguished yourself the first time around. So we expect big things out of all 3 of you. Thanks for coming this morning.
Thank you.